Well, today has been an absolute roller coaster for anyone expecting new Nintendo hardware this year or maybe even next, because we have two crazy reports from Nikkei and Bloomberg about Nintendo that I think really shines a light on this whole Switch Pro, Switch 2, kind of discussion. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been adamant in saying that I don't think the Switch 2 is going to come out until 2025 at the earliest, but probably more like 2026, maybe even early 2027, just because that's what makes sense. But let's go through these reports really quick here, just reading some tweets that grabbed quotes. So starting off in the morning of today, we had David Gibson, Gibbo Game on Twitter. He says, Nikkei story today on Nintendo with CEO saying, "We want to provide entertainment that is different from others on its next console, but behind the scenes, it appears that negotiations with suppliers about production systems have begun." So that right there should tell you this thing is nowhere near coming out. You don't, listen, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I know about supply chain and how the manufacturing process works, but you don't start negotiations with suppliers if you're planning on releasing the console within the next 18 months. That means they haven't even started producing it. That means, in my opinion, the earliest, and this is me being kind of, generous with it, the earliest we could see the next Nintendo hardware would be late 2024, holiday 2024. But even that, I think, would be really early. With the Switch, they were doing all this stuff in 2015, 2016, right? So if they're just now beginning discussions and trying to negotiate deals with suppliers for chips and all the components that you need to make the next Switch, if they're just now doing that at the beginning of 2023, I think an early 2025 launch is looking a little bit more likely. So that obviously threw everybody into a frenzy that was expecting new Nintendo hardware this year. Then Nate Drake on his podcast said that he heard early 2025 as well, or late 2024, after he's been saying Switch Pro since 2021, so take that with a grain of salt. But then, even crazier in my opinion, Takachi Mochizuki, the Japanese journalist that works for Bloomberg, reported, and this is just a tweet once again because they're behind a paywall, but just his tweet excerpt is enough to tell you what you need to know. Exclusive, Nintendo plans to make more Switch units in the next fiscal year starting April versus current term. Unusually aggressive move for a gaming console going into its 7th year on the market. Listen, I hate to say I told you so, but guys, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. Everything happening here, reading people online freaking out saying, "What? I expected Switch 2 or Switch Pro, whatever, in May with Zelda." Are you guys idiots? Not to be mean, but Jesus, it literally could not have been more obvious that there was no new Nintendo hardware coming out. This is going to be my last video on the subject until we have more concrete news, because at this point it is getting a little tiring. It was so obvious. There was literally nothing suggesting new Nintendo hardware was coming out in 2023. I will give you that maybe 2024, maybe early 2024 could have happened, but now that dream is dead. There was nothing. You had nothing. You had no evidence. You had no patterns to suggest that new Nintendo hardware was coming out in 2023, especially not 2023. I cannot believe people actually thought new Nintendo hardware, like the Switch 2, people saying Switch, not even Switch Pro, Switch 2 was going to release along Zelda in May. That makes no sense. Here's what always weirded me out, right? Their two reasonings were Nintendo's working with NVIDIA on new chipsets, because that leaked in 2022, I believe. Guys, yeah, no shit. They're always working on that. We weren't supposed to know about that. It leaked. It's not like Nintendo said, "Yeah, we're working with NVIDIA on the next console." No, that leaked. We weren't supposed to know that. Nintendo is always R&Ding for the next console, figuring that stuff out. Sony, Xbox are always doing that. So that was always a non-story. No shit, they're doing that. No shit. The second piece of evidence people kept bringing up, and I was even getting comments on like this on my video, and I thought this was just really stupid, is that the thought process that Nintendo will not release a new console until their current console is dead. They say, oh, well, they need to release a new console while hype is up before hype starts to die down. And, in this example, like Nintendo kind of did with the 3DS in 2017, this is the example they give. They released the Switch and then supported 3DS for 2 years. So they would want to release the next Switch, let's say a year and a half, 2 years before the Switch is actually done getting software. So a few things on that. First of all, I would argue they did wait until the 3DS was dead in 2016, because I think it's pretty clear that the Switch was ready to release in 2016, but they delayed it to March. They say they wanted to have more games ready, though it was clearly obvious that Breath of the Wild was ready. And then that way 3DS got one last hurrah. If you look at 3DS sales, I mean, even 2016 was nothing compared to 2015, 2014. And then 2017, it fell off a cliff because of the Switch. They didn't want to capsize their own sales. The moment they release the Switch 2, Switch 1 is going to stop selling. And I keep seeing people say, oh, well, the Switch has already slowed down. Very marginally. Especially not if Nintendo plans on making more Switch consoles this year than they did last year. Now, there could be a variety of reasons for that. That's a whole other topic, I guess, of whether or not there will be a new revision this year, like a new Switch Lite or something like that. Maybe a docked-only Switch. Maybe they're going to finally introduce, like, Nintendo Selects for Animal Crossing and Mario Kart, bringing them to 30. That's a whole other topic. But the Switch, compared to other Nintendo consoles, has not really slowed down. You know? Sales are still incredibly strong. It's still the best-selling console. It is still the best-selling console year over year. It sold better than PS5 last year, and that could change this year. That totally could change this year now that PS5 is a bit more readily available, but the Switch is still selling like a brand new console. It might have slowed down over 2020 and 2021, but you know what? That's because of COVID. And for some reason, people just want to keep ignoring this whole factoid here. Guys, COVID extended the length of not just Nintendo, but everything, by 2 years. 2020 was Switch's best year because of COVID. Animal Crossing played a large part in that, but, you know, in general, the gaming market boomed in 2020 because of COVID. At the same time, development of games and hardware projects certainly got delayed because of that. Maybe not necessarily like, oh, it's a flat 2-year delay. That's not realistic. But because people were working from home and everything got kind of muddled, it delayed stuff. Which means the entire pipeline shifted, I would say at least a year, minimum. But I would say probably more like 2 years. So for the people saying that, oh, Nintendo hardware and Nintendo home consoles only last 5-6 years, well, the Switch still has 2 more because of COVID. It's entering its 6th year now, but I would argue it's really only on, it feels like it's only on its 4th or 5th. And I just want to clarify, I would love new Nintendo hardware. I don't like playing on the Switch anymore because it is a little stinky. You know, I wish it was 1080p or at least 4K. I mean, minimum 1080, 60, but, you know, sure. I would love new Nintendo hardware. I'm an enthusiast. I would buy it day one. Don't get me wrong. But just look at this stuff logically, guys. It's obvious. I've also seen the argument that Nintendo has no new software coming out. I was seeing this in 2022. 2022 was arguably the best year of the Switch ever. In my opinion, it was. We had a bunch of new games from Nintendo's internal teams, like Splatoon and, well, Xenoblade's Monolith Soft. DLC for Mario Kart started, Nintendo Switch Sports, Bayonetta, all these things. And people are saying there's no software? Maybe y'all need to start playing more games because they released a ton of awesome games in 2022. And 2023 looks light right now. But that happens every year until we get a Direct. Do I think this year is going to be as good as 2022? No. Do I think it's going to be better than 2021? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be better than 2020 and 2018? Yes, I think it will be. Because we already know about Zelda, Pikmin 4, Metroid something is certainly going to come out this year, I would assume. Something Mario related. That Bayonetta game, this Kirby remake. There's already plenty of stuff. There's rumors about F-Zero and Baten Kaitos. Now I was going to do a video on that. I decided not to. There's plenty of stuff coming for the Switch. The software is breaking records in sales. The hardware is still selling better than the other new consoles. Do the math, people. It literally makes no sense to make new hardware. And I also, one last thing, I keep seeing people on Family Boards and Reset Era saying, oh, well, I feel bad for the third-party devs that have to make games for this now and have to downscale their games. What devs? What are you talking about? Persona 5 and Nier Automata came to Switch 5 years late last year, and they still sold incredibly well. The Japanese third-party support that matters is going to show up on Nintendo regardless. Regardless, it will be there. And you can look at examples like, oh, Soul Hackers 2. First of all, bad game. Second of all, that's just how it's being weird. The third-party support that matters is already on Switch. Obviously, there's no harm in more AAA games from EA or Activision or whatever coming over. That would obviously be a net positive. You know, we're getting Hogwarts Legacy later this year on Switch, which is weird and kind of scary because I don't know how that game's going to run on Switch. But in terms of the Japanese third-party support, the stuff that matters, it's doing fine, guys. It's completely fine. And I don't think these Japanese developers are really complaining about that, and they're the ones that matter. So yeah, I just wanted to make a video rambling about this whole situation because I feel bad. I feel bad for these people that build themselves up to think that new Nintendo hardware is coming out when there's literally nothing suggesting it. You can make up little scenarios in your mind, but it's not real. I'm calling you delusional. You're delusional if you ever thought this was coming out any earlier than late 2024, early 2025. It's just, it never made sense. The Switch is selling well. The software is selling well. The software is selling record-breaking numbers, like I said, better than ever with Splatoon and Pokemon last year. It might look like there's not much on the plate right now in terms of upcoming game releases, but that's because we're in January, and Nintendo announces games 3 months before they come out. We're getting the sequel to the best Zelda game or best-selling Zelda game of all time this year. That should tell you all you need to know about how Nintendo views the Switch and what their plan is when it comes to the next console. The plan is that it's a long ways away. So yeah, I just wanted to ramble for a while. Let me know, what do you think of all the Switch news and developments? Are you sad or happy that the Switch will be going on for another couple years here minimum? So yeah, if you enjoyed this little rambling video, please consider subscribing for more Nintendo content. Been doing a lot of 3DS stuff, nostalgia, throwback content, but also Switch. I'm playing Fire Emblem Engage right now. Game is absolutely fantastic. Must-own game for tactics fans. So stay tuned for that. Hit that bell so you don't miss any of those videos. Follow me on Twitter @BoTalksMedia. And until next time, folks, bye-bye.